So let's kick her off with task number 2. This one's all about the score and credit forms. This is a great opportunity. This form is a wonderful supplement to the classroom of what you may already be doing, just where the multiple question form doesn't quite meet your needs of what you're needing. So this is a wonderful supplement to that. It really goes back to the just the basic turning in of a homework or a score, going things like agenda text or workbook folders, field trip slips if you're just collecting who had submitted and who has not. It's also good for good club attendance. So this is kind of a really neat, like I said, it all comes back to that more immediate scoring and transferring of information that's collected. So the big difference here between the score and the credit form, I want to show you where these are located. So if you go into GradeCam, we all know from last week we did the new multiple question assignment, but now we're looking at scored and credit forms. So the big difference between these two is scored forms allow you to write in a score ahead of time that you then scan and collect that information. A credit assignment is more just scan to collect, that you scanned it and it collected it. The scored assignments, I like to use those more for more variety of score ranges, like 1 to 100. And the credit form, I like it more from like 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. So it's a smaller range, with maybe not as much variety for the scoring. And I kind of show you what I mean about that here in a little bit. So that's easy to see just straight from your assignments tab. So what's our first number tip? Laminate these. These are so easy. They're pretty standard forms. They're ideal for just laminating and reusing over and over again in a variety of ways. And hopefully in some of these ideas that we share with you tonight, you'll have some ideas of what you could use those forms for. So here's a couple examples that we've done in the past. I really like the composition book, and that's actually just done with clear tape. So you just print off your score form, put it on a composition book, and just tape right over it with clear packaging tape. This is probably one of my favorites. This is wonderful for daily or weekly journaling, so that students write in their journal response, you collect those, you may do a quick review of them, and you either scan them just that you collected them, or you may assign a score to it. Again, just finding the difference of do you want to score it or do you want to just give credit this time. Couple other ideas I've got in there is like the bookmarks, is putting the card on top of the bookmark so you can see what that looks like. It just puts that score form. I thought that'd be great if you just tuck that inside of a book, and then maybe you do book talks with your students or conferences each week. Just write the score in, scan that real quick, and then you can give that back to the student. You'll be ready for your book talk next week. So again, these are just a variety of ways you can do it. And the nice thing about the score and credit form is since they're fairly interchangeable, you can put it on something and then decide later if you want to collect a score or do you want to get a credit. So score, like I said, you submit or write in your score ahead of time. But a credit form, you're going to actually put in as you scan it. So one of the best methods I've found for doing this is what I call the stack and score method. This is easy way to get those quick completions. So when I go over, I'm going to pull up a credit assignment just so you can see that I've got that set up. And what I do for stacking these is I create my stacks of my assignments. So I may have a stack of 1 point, a stack of 3 points, a stack of 5 points. This makes it real easy to just do my scanning straight from there. So in this example, maybe I have my stack of 3 points ready, so I just move my slider to my points that I want to. It's a total of 5 points. I just put those right under my document camera so that they can start scanning. I scan those as we go, and you see each one of those that I scan will scan as 3 points as it comes in. Now, like I said, that's really handy to be able to divide those all out so I know ahead of time what assignments that I'm going to put in there. Those each go with 3 points, as you can see in the scan. When I'm ready to do my next stack, I just move my slider to how many points it is, which is 5, and I do that stack. From there, you can see I just do my quick scoring. That way it's all done. Like I said, it's that stack and score, repeat as you need. All right, so the next tip that I have for you guys is let's place these on a worksheet. Like I said, since these are really ideal for the quick scanning and collection of either completion or actual scores, they're ideal for worksheets that, again, don't lend themselves to that multi-question quiz. We have actually had a couple people share their ideas of how to use these credit forms or score forms on our group discussion. So check back on their answers and you'll kind of see how they did, what they did for a variety of ways. On this particular one, it's just showing some examples here. So like a quick math assessment. If I just wanted to collect those scores, I want them to go through that. Maybe this is a timed test. And I wanted to go through it, do this work there so I see it, but then I collect the score that's put in the score form in the upper left corner, or upper right corner, excuse me. So that one I would actually put a score in and it turns it into a score form. The other one is more of a credit form. So if I'm just collecting that they had done it, that they completed the notes for that particular topic or that day, I just put it straight on my form and then I can use it from there. Now, there are two ways that you can actually add these score and credit forms straight to your forms. So to show you what those look like, again, you just to create your form, create an assignment in GradeCam just like you normally do, and we create our forms just kind of like you did before. Click on Forms. And from here, you'll see that it pops up. I have my options for setting this up. I like to do this as a generic, so any assignment with a compatible key, so I can reuse it over and over again. There's no indication there. Then I like to go, then you do want to print a generic. And the reason you print a generic is because you're actually going to copy this one over and over again, and you don't need 50 copies from Edgar Allan Poe or, Jane Smith. So you want to make sure you do the print generic. And with generic, students will have to fill in their own GradeCam ID. So just put the number of digits that you need in there for your students so that they can submit their own form. After that, you just click on Generate, and you'll get two options. You can either download a PDF or download the PNG. If you do the PDF, this is the old school, tried and true, cut it out, tape it to your worksheet, make your copies. We've all done that, and that's a great way to create the form quickly. The other option is if you have the worksheet available to you as a digital copy, like a Google Doc or a Word document, you can actually download this as a PNG, and then you save this, and you can insert it directly into your digital document, print, and copy. Again, it's just making it right there on the go. I really love the note one for the most part, so that way you can really set up if you have certain note-taking processes that you would like your students to follow. So tip number 3. Export your data for easy tracking and graphs. Hopefully you guys have tried out the one-key grade transfer and done this to your gradebook, but you can still use that same transferring method just to pull that over to a separate sheet if you're just tracking and not using it for grades. Keep in mind that that's a wonderful technique to continue to use. Again, it's just data for data's sake and not necessarily data for a grade. In this example, here's a couple of ideas that you could do this with. If I look at collecting a practice folder every week, but I just want to make sure my students submitted their homework or something, just put a credit form up in the corner, and then I just am tracking whether if I collected it, they get a point. If I didn't collect it, I'm actually going to transfer that over and have it enter as a 0. I'm not doing this for a grade. I just want to note whether they turned it in that day or they didn't. So this way I can actually reuse the same assignment in GradeCam, and then I export that each day at the end of the day with that one key transfer. So again, really easy way for doing that quick tracking of information. The other option you have is for using that score. Maybe you're actually collecting some sort of number data, like number of pages read in a book that week, or in this example, the words read per minute correctly in a fluency test. So that's something that you could have students do, and then they could scan it on the side, and you collect that data and put it into a chart. So I'll show you what I mean by this, because this is a great way, again, to pull out that data just for tracking to help students have a conversation about their progress, and we're not looking at grades. We just want to talk about what they're doing. So I like this example as well. If I go over to my scored, you can see here that I've got some scores already in here, and then I want to transfer this out to another sheet. So I go over to Transfer. If you haven't done the gradebook transfer, this is how you do it. Transfer, select the class that you'd like to transfer, and I'm going to transfer my English class. And as you go down, you'll see all your scores are already here. Now I have a couple that don't have scores, so I want to double check my transfer settings. This is an important piece of information because how do you want these scores to come over? You have the option in your scores to determine if you want the missing assignments to be skipped or do you want them to enter at 0. For my checking whether they turned in their folder that day, I had to enter a 0. Again, I'm not doing it for grading. I'm just making a mark of whether they have it or not. My other option is to skip. If I skip, that's more important when I'm tracking their progress because I don't want a 0 to skew their results. So I want to make sure on this one, we're skipping the assignment. Go back over here. Now the important part of the gradebook transfer is to keep this window open. Then I'm going to go over to a Google Sheet that I have set up with my scores to the side. You can see here that I've got all my students already in. I've got some previous data. I'm just going to hit that magic key, hit that F8, and it just plugs those scores right in for me. Now it might be slightly delayed just because of my internet delay right now with the live, but you can see it just enters those scores in there and it skips a couple that I may not have had in the past. Now that, like I said, makes it real nice so I know if I do have those students or I don't. I can actually then, this tracks over to my grades, so I have this out to a chart so I can have a conversation with my students about their progress. I'm just tracking the scores just to see where they're going. So that's just changing up the data that you're collecting and what you're doing with that. But reusing that transfer capability is just to take it over to an Excel sheet so I can check that every day if I need to. So again, use that transfer for more than just grades. Use it for your data. There's a great opportunity.